Hello, everybody, and welcome to the White Hatter YouTube News Show. I'm Brandon.
And I'm Darren.
We got a lot.
I'm Brandon.
I'm Brandon. Today on the show, we're talking about Facebook changing its
Mean
Meta.
Meta.
Meta changing its ad policy. We're talking about potential new laws coming into effect to prevent targeted content on social media, being able to help people stop tracking you on iOS using AirTags.
Important in
and
development. Yeah.
YouTube is changing its dislike features. Some people
Interesting.
are interested in the controversy around this. So with all that being said, let's get into the news, shall we?
In the news.
So, first news topic is Meta will remove ad targeting categories on sexual orientation, religion, and politics happening in 2022.
Interesting. I mean, Facebook has changed its name to Meta. It's still Facebook, but it's changed its name to Meta. And now they're doing all kinds of interesting
Is
things.
Meta and Facebook now the good guys?
It's interesting. Last week, they got rid of their facial recognition.
They're in the process of removing it and deleting all the facial profiles in their system. Yeah.
And now they're going after sexual orientation, religion, and politics. I mean, this is very interesting. Do you think maybe the pressure that they're feeling from the U.S. Senate and Congress is having an effect?
I think it's the pressure from everybody.
I think
it's it's everybody. So, I mean,
that's going to be very interesting.
Why? Is it because they've grown so big that they do not need this content?
No, it's because of the focus that's on them right now that's being shone over all the controversy. They're the biggest on the block. So as a result of that, they're being targeted. I mean, there's no doubt about that. I mean, even in the last Senate hearings that we just heard in the States, I mean, the other social networks, YouTube and, all the other players were trying to distance themselves from Facebook, saying, we don't do this, only Facebook does, which is not true. So it's very interesting to see how Facebook is kind of taking this approach. I mean,
now it's going to be reversed, and now Facebook, Meta is going to come into these courtroom hearings and go, no, actually, these folks are doing the bad things.
I think it's going to be really interesting. It's going to be very interesting. What's going to be really interesting. I think they're putting a lot of money on this whole Meta, metaverse thing, and it's going to be interesting because they get a ton of money from advertisements around those issues. So it's going to be interesting to see what they do.
I have seen some negative results from this, and people are talking about on how
Such as?
Advocacy groups who are not based on hate but to promote good things have stated that it'll make it harder for them to reach folks who might be targeted, who might be in need, because the ads that they invest into will not reach those folks who may need their services.
Positive ads specific to LGBTQ2+A type of...
Yeah, precisely.
Yeah. Interesting. Very
will not be
interesting.
able, or anti-hate groups may not be able to put through ads under the politics category, and therefore their work would be reaching less folk.
Interesting development. I think the pressure both from government as well as the public on these issues is starting to have a cause and effect, right? So
I agree.
It's going to be interesting.
Does this new norm of removing targeted ads and facial recognition now make it harder for new companies to compete?
It's going to be interesting.
Because Facebook had a head start.
Yeah.
Facebook was able to do all these terrible things in order to get them to the position of number one. And now that they're changing the landscape, now other companies cannot use these horrible tactics to get as big as Facebook is.
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting. I think they're trying to get ahead of all these other companies. I think you're right, so that they can point their fingers at these other social media platforms and go, "Hey, listen, look at what we're doing. What are you guys doing?"
Yeah, Facebook's too big to. Meta's too big to fail.
Yeah. Well, are they? Or are they too big to be split up, right? Compartmentalized, which are some of the discussions that are taking place down in the United States, right? Like this is very interesting. It's an interesting development. Do I think it's enough? No. I still think there needs to be some legislation in place, which is a good segue onto the next slide.
The next
right?
article coming up this week, lawmakers are...
Did you like that?
Yeah,
that was a segue, not the one that you ride. Get it?
Yes.
Or did you?
No, I got it.
You got it. Okay.
I got it. I was imagining you in a segue with a white hat.
I know. That'd be pretty funny, actually. We tried to write, Mom and Dad, when we went down to San Diego 2 years ago, pre-COVID, we were going to get a couple of segues. We were going to go on a segue tour of San Diego, but they were all full. They were all booked. that'd be cool.
Lawmakers come for Facebook Meta algorithm with filter bubble bill. Bipartisan group of
What's a
lawmakers.
filter bubble?
So a filter bubble is an algorithmic system of how it presents you content.
Basically, it learns about what you like, so when it's returning results back to you, it's making an assumption that these are the ones that you want to watch, given the millions of possible hits you can get.
Yeah.
Basically.
And
that's boomer talk, by the way.
Yeah, and usually content's based off of your history and other data points that you have provided to the social network. Right. The problem is we've seen a lot of different articles and research pointing towards how you will be sucked into a rabbit hole of content you're already self-aware of, or...
I think we call those echo chambers.
Yeah, an echo chamber.
Yeah.
So if you're somebody who is skewed one way politically, you're going to be only presented with content that way that only affirms any biases you may have, which can be negative from self-educating yourself and self-empowering yourself.
Right.
So a group of lawmakers are looking to what they're calling the Filter Bubble Transparency Act. And what they're proposing is that social networks, including Facebook and whatnot,
FIBTA. Facebook Transparency Act, FIBTA. Sounds like a runner.
Filter Bubble Transparency Act.
FIBTA.
Which will require social networks like Facebook, Meta, and other ones to basically provide users the ability to opt out of filter content and only be presented things chronologically.
Yeah, is it such a bad thing? Isn't there another platform that kind of does that already?
Yeah, Twitter has a feature where you can have reverse chronological order of content. The challenge is filter bubbles became a necessary evil because us humans in our brains cannot process everything, and we need to make assumptions and shortcuts in order to carry on with our daily lives.
Right.
Do you really want to see every single post that every single family member puts on Facebook? Or would you rather see posts that Facebook thinks you're more likely going to engage with?
I don't know.
That's the question. But if you have like 1,000+ followers on Facebook,
I like the idea that it's an option. You can either turn it on or turn it off to meet your needs, right? Like I like that, right? So rather than having it on all the time, which it is now, then why not give the option to the user to make a decision? I think that is a good idea.
iOS 15.2 beta appears to show nearby AirTag Find My Device feature. So basically, Mac rumors, which is getting
so just before you go on this, like this has been a concern with a lot of women's safety groups, right? And we've seen documented cases now where maybe a relationship, an abuser will attempt to track their target using AirTags.
Yeah, and AirTags and Apple has a feature where if it thinks, based off if its algorithm, that it thinks they're being tracked by a third-party AirTag, it will give you a warning that there's an AirTag near you that's been around you for a good while.
I think it's 24 or
24 hours or so.
By then, it could be too late if somebody's trying to track you. Right?
There has to be a threshold of false positives.
Especially if you're a woman or anybody leaving an abusive relationship.
Yeah.
Right? Like all of a sudden you've left an abusive relationship, you're heading to a transition house, and all of a sudden the abuser knows exactly where you are. And that can happen in less than 24 hours, right?
Yeah, but Apple can't. If you're hanging out with somebody and they have an AirTag on their keys and you're hanging out with them for the day, Apple can't warn you going, hey, you're being tracked by an AirTag because the person you're hanging with.
No, but what's to stop the abuser from putting an AirTag in the target's car?
True. You can get cheap GPS trackers for close to the price of an AirTag.
Yeah, in policing, we used to call them bird dogs.
Yeah. So AirTags are just more of a consumer way. If someone really is motivated, they'll probably just go to an online retailer.
Or a spy store.
And get those GPS tags that don't then inform you. Yeah. So Mac Rumors, who's getting their hands on and playing with the beta, found a feature in the Find My app. You can turn on a feature that will detect unowned tags around you as a way of proactively
like that.
Yeah, maybe not quite like that, but it will give you a rough estimate of there might be a device around you. So maybe if you have concerns that somebody might be tracking you, you can now proactively scan your environment to look for a rogue AirTag that might be tracking you.
Good idea. I mean, this should be something that, a lot of transition homes or counselors that work with people who are leaving abusive relationships may want to just mention, right?
Yeah.
And just bring up to date that this is a good way just to quickly sweep a vehicle or your property that you have just to ensure that the abuser hasn't tagged you, right?
Yeah. so we do expect to probably see that feature coming in the iOS 15.2
Cool.
full update.
So here's a really good example where Apple, I think, listened to some of the concerns and so tried to find a solution, not a foolproof solution, but at least another option to help identify if somebody's using one of these things inappropriately.
Yeah. My first thought.
Here we go.
You know how people will go to beaches with metal detectors?
Yeah, I want one of those, by the way.
Well,
you know what my favorite show is?
What?
Treasure of Oak Island. Right?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, Oak Island.
Yeah.
I love that. I love that show. I think they're going to find the treasure this year too. But I've wanted for years a metal detector.
Well, why do that? Just get an iPhone and find lost AirTags.
Yeah, but you know,
which is probably attached to more valuable items anyways. Oh, look, I'm gonna go hunting for wallets.
Yeah, yeah, good point.
Right?
Yeah.
That was my first thought when I was like, okay, how could this be used in unsavory ways?
Right.
Because apparently, according to Mac rumors, there's a feature that Apple will inform you if you're being tracked and how to disable a tag.
Oh.
So maybe you're somebody, you have an AirTag on your wallet or your keys. Someone finds it because they're hunting for them using the app. They didn't disable it. Now you can't find your keys
so
or your
that's
wallet.
the downside.
That's the downside.
Oh, okay. I still think there's more upsides.
Definitely. I just want to point out that it's not all potentially good.
Okay, so let's see. We hit Facebook. We hit Apple. Is there another social media vendor we're going to hit?
YouTube.
Woohoo! Which we're on right now. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Ding!
Update on YouTube. Dislikes on YouTube. So, ding! So, YouTube is updating its features, and it's now removing dislike numbers from public videos.
Interesting.
So they're keeping the dislike buttons. People can indicate they dislike a video by pressing the button, but the number associated on how many dislikes there have been is now being rolled out. Creators, people who post videos, will still be able to see the totality of dislikes
totality, good word.
Totality. In their dashboard, but it's not as if an average user can see the
Will
negative.
the user be able to see the number of likes?
The likes will still be present, yes.
But you'll see a dislike, but you won't see how many dislikes there may be.
Correct.
Interesting. And why are they doing that?
Their main reason is to prevent hate,
weaponization,
and dislike bombing,
yeah,
which we've seen happen over the last decade,
yep,
where groups of people will just get together,
or your competition,
or just dislike you with a whole bunch of bot accounts or actual accounts in order to discredit your video. According to YouTube's research, their own internal research, the total number of dislikes on a video doesn't really weigh into a person's decision and choice to watch a video or not.
Right.
From my own experience, I know I have paid attention to dislikes when certain companies have made new promo videos and they're really bad. Like they're really cringy. Right. And universally, people just hate whatever that was posted.
Right.
So I mean, it was organic, negative.
What I do think is if somebody's going to dislike or like, they should be identifiable. Because if you make that person identifiable, well, then if they're disliking it, you can now hold their feet to the fire. Because one of the things that we've seen with companies who've connected with us is much like you say, hate bombing, where let's say it's competition who's put out a video and you're the competition to that company. So what you do, you and your friends go in there and you just hit the dislike button, right?
Yeah, true. On YouTube, it doesn't tell you who likes or dislikes a video.
So
somewhere like on Twitter, it does.
Yeah, so that's why I personally think, I mean, I like this, but I do think, because again, what's to stop the like button from being abused, right? What's to stop somebody, a company or anybody else hiring 100 people and going, hey, listen, can you hit this button 100 times for us? Just up the rankings, right? Like there's nothing. So I do think that being able to identify who the person is who's liking or disliking may also go a long way in helping to deal with some of the issues. I may be out in left field here, but I don't think so.
No, I mean, Twitter does that essentially.
They do.
Where you can see all the likes. Although we have seen that being negatively used, where companies will, do a social media background check.
And, reverse psychology, if something has 100 dislikes and 20 likes, I think people are going to go, I wonder why people are disliking this. And maybe even, it's interesting, right?
Potentially.
It's interesting, right? But I do think that this is a good step.
I think overall, yes, because at least the creators can still see metrically how their videos are performing,
Right.
like to dislike ratio.
Right.
It will be interesting to see. I'll have to test this because I use some tools on YouTube to get some more analytic insight on videos how performing just on the platform. Even
Right.
though I didn't post a video,
Right.
there are tools available. So I don't know if the number will be still available in, say, the public code
Right.
of YouTube,
Right.
or if it's just what you're visually seeing. So we'll see how that rolls out after test that.
Interesting, right? Again, it's very interesting to see finally, these big social media vendors are starting to pay attention, right, to do things that they should have done years ago, but because of public pressure and because the light is being shone on them, that they're now starting to make these changes, knowing that if they don't, they're going to be forced to, right? So
Yes, but they built their empires using unethical ways.
Yeah.
So, which now makes it harder for smaller companies.
That's why, I find it quite funny. A lot of these people are on the speaking circuit right now who worked with Facebook or were investors on Facebook and some of these other major social networks who've made millions, if not tens and hundreds of millions of dollars off of those platforms, are now going against the platforms, right? Like saying, oh, Facebook is evil, blah, blah, blah. But yet they've made 30, 40, 50, 80, 100
and they have the
million
following that if Facebook
right?
changes something, they're not going to impact them.
Yeah,
Which, again, makes it only harder for competition to come in and compete.
Yeah.
Last thing is update from us. Is new blog out on the White Hatter blog. Holiday 2021. First tech gift ideas plus resources for youth and families.
Yeah, we've been over the past couple of weeks. I've been fielding a number of inquiries now from parents asking us, Darren, what do you think would be a really good first phone for a kid or first computer? So I wrote a couple of articles that I just posted on Facebook alone, but I thought this was important enough that we should create a blog and or an article, which we did. And not only do we talk about what is a really good first phone or really first hybrid laptop computer, but we also talk about some other wraparound resources that should go with tech, like a family collective agreement issue. We talk about the Kinzu messaging app. We talk about our free web book for parents that talk to parents and teach parents about how to talk to their kids about how to use technology. It's all within this article, right? Kind of a one-stop shop where if families are looking to put a tech gift under the tree, or what they can consider this year, and a bunch of free resources that should accompany that type of tech as well.
Fantastic. Link to that will be in the description, along with all the other articles and more resources from us and our social networks.
Absolutely.
And that's the show we have here this week.
Quick show. It's like Noah's Ark out there, right there, here in Victoria, right? The amount of I just read on they shut down the Malahat because the river is now flowing over. It's never ever happened in the history of the Malahat right now.
I left the house yesterday at 12 o'clock to do some errands, and it just hasn't stopped.
I know. We're in the Pineapple Express, right? That's what it's called, but it's a big one right now, right? The flooding is just unbelievable.
Do some errands
Thank
today.
God we're on high ground.
I have to do some errands today. Maybe I'll bring a kayak.
We'll see. Anyways, great show. I'm Darren.
I'm Brandon. Thank you all for joining us, and we'll see you all next time.
See ya.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.